Hello, everybody. Welcome to Drunk with the Questions, the talk show where ordinary people talk about extraordinary topics. Today, with me, the only guy that I know that got stabbed in the chest with a sword in a third world country and still survived. Raj, how you doing today?
Namaste, everyone. I'm doing well. I survived. It healed well. Some backyard butcher surgeon took care of me and did a fine job. So I'm here. I'm alive. How's everybody else doing?
Great.
What?
So yeah, for all our listeners, luckily today we have more of our friends with us. So we have Tim, Nick, and Spicy. Tim, how you doing?
Hi.
I'm doing great. Thank you for
Good.
having me.
Nick?
Sorry, I was taking a drink of Crown Royal. If you want to sponsor us, very fabulous whiskey lemonade.
Sonic hard
Immediately
seltzers,
charged
please.
for-
Or that Sonic hard seltzers. I haven't heard of that. We don't have
Mm.
Sonic up here.
Oh,
Spicy, how are you?
Still just trying to wrap my brain around the fact that Raj got stabbed.
Yeah. Can we circle back to that?
Oh, we can
please?
absolutely circle back to
oh
that.
God, no. Yeah. So when I was a kid, I was dumb. Many times that I should have died and never even made it to the border of the United States of America. So one of the instances of my stupidity was playing up in the attic of where my grandfather stored all of his antique weaponry from back in the day. So I'm from the warrior class in India. So from that, if people have heard of the caste system, there's different classes, and my ancestry goes back into the warrior class. So we have all these old weapons from back when they like fought the Portuguese that were trying to invade and all kinds of stuff. So we were just up there playing with swords, and yeah, my buddy did a thrust, I didn't parry, and I got a sword basically right in the chest, and luckily it lodged in my rib cage instead of puncturing through. So I didn't actually die that day.
You guys just Ricky Bobby it and take another sword and try to pry it out.
Right out, no, I was screaming, dude. No way. I remember him dropping it and this just running out of the house.
Jesus.
I'm pretty sure he thought he killed me, dude. Oh my God. Yeah, so that's my story of the day. I've got plenty. I can do one for every episode. Don't worry.
Oh yeah.
My God,
Definitely.
you just
Third
went
world
up
country stuff.
you just went up like 3 notches in my book.
Yeah. The only one in the friend group that I think has been stabbed with a blade that long.
Yes. I love this part where I get to burn Raj right in the opening, and I always think about things.
This
I've
is what he
known him for
plans
so
every.
I mean,
Ever-
yeah,
yeah.
you've known each other for so long. You can pull up
About
shit
the
from
only
way
thing I
back.
actually plan out.
Yeah, this topic, wing it, but the burn for Raj got to just
All
write
week.
it right
It's
out.
the only thing I'm thinking about.
Yeah, it's gotta hurt just right.
So, anyways, speaking about today's topic, isolationism. We're actually gonna do this more of like a loose debate format. Normally we talk about things. Today we're gonna be trying to convince each other of our positions, I suppose. So Raj and Wix are anti-isolationism. Me, Tim, Spicy, we're all pro-isolationism. So the official question, should the United States return to isolationism? And when I say that, I'm talking about pre-World War II. For those that don't know, isolationism, officially defined, is a category of foreign policies institutionalized by leaders who assert that nations' best interests are best served by keeping the affairs of other countries at a distance. One possible motivation for limiting international involvement is to avoid being drawn into dangerous and otherwise undesirable conflicts. So, for the listeners that don't know, pre-World War II, before the U.S. got involved after Pearl Harbor, December 7, 1941, we took the stance of isolationism, and basically we said, listen, hands off. The world's at war, but it's not our problem. We're not doing anything about it. I want to preface that just because you say hands off, we're not doing anything, doesn't mean you actually don't do anything, right? So obviously the US was supplying weapons to Great Britain. Obviously the US cut off oil to Japan, which is why they attacked Pearl Harbor. They make decisions still that influence the world, considering how big the US is. Any decision that we make influences a lot of the world's economy and flow. But is it really worth the U.S. getting nitty and gritty, being the world police, just because of our size and our military might? So that's kind of the preface for the debate today. And I'm excited to hear what everyone has to say, because I think a lot of us have a decent understanding of the actual topic, and we have pretty good ideas. So I guess Wix and Raj, I'll give you guys the honor of having the opening argument, or say so, since you are the lowest in number count. So
The lowest of human beings.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not-
no, I think it's important that we preface also that when we're talking about isolationism and world policing, we're not talking just about the stop it. Stop it with your ghost hand. Yeah, we're not just talking about just military force. There's also trade. There's also things that we do. Like Mike said, one of the things that we had during World War II is technically we were isolationists, but we were still providing goods and services to the side that we wanted to win. So in terms of like, are you an isolationist in trade? Are you an isolation just in military force? And I think it's important that we preface that as well in our argument. So starting off in that argument, for me, I am not an isolationist when it comes to especially the United States of America being the entity that it is in the world, being the superpower that it is. I think with this much power and this much military influence throughout the world, having all of our bases in all these different areas, it's pretty much useless for us not to be involved in the problems of the world. Because if the biggest thing is when power has a vacuum and there's a void, other people will fill that void. So if the US was to withdraw from the world and get away from the problems of the world and vacate that space, some other party will take over that space, and that might not be in the best interest of the United States. So you have to be wary of what's going on.
Or they'll kill each other to try and fill it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and there could be open conflict that could turn into World War III, and then nobody wins. So you either keep the peace by being interventionist in a certain area, or you have to keep the peace with overwhelming force where nobody decides they're going to even challenge you, which is basically the policy I feel the United States has taken. And it's really the only policy that you can have in terms of, because to have peace, you must be so strong that nobody wants to challenge you. And I feel like that's the only way you're going to have peace. Nobody's just been like, oh, we're equal in power, so we're just going to have peace. It just doesn't work that way. Usually somebody challenges the other person, some kind of war starts, and we all know that war just doesn't have one local area. It spreads like a wildfire, so it starts going everywhere.
Or we have all these proxies, which we've had over the last 40 years, where it might not be us directly confronting somebody, but like the same thing with the trade is, you know, we're still betting on one side to win. So, you know, you decide to pick a fight with this guy. Well, I'm going to help him just to show you that you can't even beat that guy. So why could you challenge me? So, I mean, a subject that's near and dear to my heart with being, with what I've done in my military career, which is, you know, our war in Afghanistan and the previous war with Russia had with Afghanistan. You know, we developed the Mujahideen to combat the Russians, and we directly and indirectly helped them, whether it was soft teams being in there helping them, or the overwhelming amount of wealth we pushed into there. But that was our attempt of showing Russia that they can do whatever they want, but we couldn't do it in open conflict because World War III. But then that turned around and bit us in the ass because they didn't like us any more than they liked them at the end of the day. So, but even after a 20-year war, nobody wants to mess with us.
There still isn't a power on this planet that can challenge America. You could have the entire world combine the forces and try to take on, and just power for power, technology for technology. There is not a country on this planet that could match up. No alliance can. And one of the biggest things that the US has is where it's located. The United States in geography is by far the only place on the planet that is almost incapable of being invaded. There's no possibility of invasion. To the south, we have deserts. To the north, we have Canada. We have mountainous regions. We have forests that predominantly haven't been explored or haven't been colonized. So it's almost impossible for somebody to come from the north and the south. Our coastal areas are covered in US bases that will detect an enemy coming from hundreds of miles away. There is just no way for anybody to attack us, but we have the fleet that can travel to any corner of the world and attack you in your house. So
3.2 million tons of ship is what the Navy has alone.
mhm.
That
Oh,
goes on our
shit.
seas.
That's just the
And-
Navy.
And you know what? The Coast Guard actually has 10 times as many ships as the Navy does. It's just not the same amount of tonnage, obviously, because you're not putting aircraft carriers in the Great Lakes. But you have all of that spread out across the United States for the Coast Guard. And then you have, obviously, the Navy, which can go anywhere in the world.
We have the
And-
biggest satellites force. We can see what you're doing in your house. If you're taking a shit
Space
outside of your
Force.
house, we can tell. And we can tell where you are and who you are.
I watched those videos. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Just
So
to-
there's no hiding from us. There's no running from us. There's no attacking us. So what do?
Just to technically clarify, there were aircraft carriers in the Great Lakes, so
They were, but it wasn't like the Coast Guard is just like, I've got aircraft carriers. This is great. No, you don't have the fucking USS fucking Richard Nixon.
The Enterprise would have been a
Yeah.
better
Enterprise.
example, but you
Fuck.
know.
Yeah.
Tim, opening statement.
I guess definitely isolationism, because like Dr. Jordan Peterson states, you need to get your house in order before you can go out and help the world. I think his direct quote was, if you cannot bring peace to your own household, how dare you try to rule a city? So we need to get things within the United States as far as economically better for everyone, and pretty much to say, like, you should, and it kind of goes into a lot of different political and sociological topics, but quality of outcomes is not necessary. The equality to do it, to be able to go and try and make the best possible life you can.
I
guess
don't think anyone's
important.
advocating for equality of outcome. I think they're quality of opportunity is everyone's goal.
Opportunity.
Well, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, opportunity. But yeah, really, like, even on an individual state, if you don't have your own personal affairs together, how are you supposed to be able to help those outside of your home?
Have you seen what it's like in another country?
Oh, I mean, you have Afghanistan. I mean, we spent billions in Afghanistan. There's still mud huts. They're no farther
You're
better
absolutely
along.
okay, but before we were in Afghanistan,
They were
3%
mud
of
huts.
females had a chance at education.
And now they
3%.
don't anymore because
Well,
of the Taliban.
That was not the goal, but 16,000 females were educated underneath us while we
Until
were
they
there,
were
at least.
removed from their positions of education.
Correct, but they were still
political
given that
authorities.
opportunity.
But
Opportunity
that's a weakness in
destroyed.
policy versus what the overall
Correct.
goal was. That's a
Correct.
weakness in policy that was for the time being. So if you're in a neighborhood of 15 houses and all of a sudden you see 2 houses on the other side of the neighborhood are on fire and you see the fire coming, do you just take care of your own house, or do you try to get out with everybody else and try to stop the fire before it gets to your house?
And our shit is much more together
Well,
than
funny-
anyone else's shit.
So funny thing about like the house fires, right? So early on, fire departments would only put out your house if you paid insurance for that and you had a placard on the front of your home that would
Which is
determine whether or not the fire department would actually.
Archaic and disgusting.
That's
Douse your house.
that's dumb.
Yeah,
There's a
I mean-
premium on water during
That's
that
called
time.
corruption.
Yeah.
yeah, but if you don't pay for it, why
Mhm.
are you receiving the service? Is kind of the thing, right? So then there's
Yep.
people that would pay. I would think it was a very nominal fee because it was a community-based organization, bunch of
Mhm.
volunteers that would get together. These funds would help also rebuild the structure that was
Mhm.
lost. So that was kind of like the early version of homeowners insurance.
What you're saying is that if we should only help people if we expect to get something back for it.
Oh, those who are fully body and capable of working, I absolutely think that they should have to perform some form of community service if they're not paying into the unlawful or unconstitutional taxes that we have.
But
If we
I'm
see-
talking about on a world scale.
Out of world scale, yeah. What if a genocide is happening somewhere? Do we?
So
do we
Haiti
have
can't really offer us a whole lot,
Mm-mm.
but we're just gonna let it get ravaged by natural disasters repeatedly and just let them fucking sink into the ocean.
So I'm going to interject. Sorry, Tim.
Oh no, you're fine.
So here's the problem with what you're saying. We're talking about international policy. We're not talking about being a good neighbor. Okay? There are already world institutions that are created to keep things like that in line, such as
The Red
natural
Cross.
disasters or wars like what had occurred in Rwanda in the late 90s, right?
Yeah,
We
but
have-
still, even then, what would have happened if the U.S. had?
But
fucking
here's the
stuck
thing,
its
the-
neck out.
Yeah, if the U.S. doesn't get involved, the UN is absolutely useless.
So hold on, because you got to let me finish. So the UN and NATO can take care of those kinds of things, right? I am not saying that the US withdraws from the UN. The UN is just a partner that we go hand in hand with, right? Technically, if
That we
if the-
drag down the road.
yeah, but if the UN is dispatched, it's because all those countries agreed it's time to go in. We got to do what we got to do, and it's a joint force. It's not just the US, although we do have a lot of people, right? Here's the problem. The US ends up being the world police, and we say, well, if the UN's not going to fucking do anything, I guess we'll do it. And that's not our job. If the UN decides, hey, we as the UN, all these, whatever, the big 8 or whatever they are, decide, yep, we have to intervene in this, and the US has to relinquish resources to assist with that, I'm okay with that because that's a UN operation. But when it's the US that decides, hey, we need to be the world police, we have to fix everything, we don't give a shit what anyone else really says, because we take action before the UN does almost every single time.
That's
And
because
that's
the
not-
UN's not actually equipped nor trained to actually be a direct action assistance.
Neither was
Literally
the fucking...
just the other day, 8 UN workers in sub-Saharan Africa were killed by a fucking tribe of people that came and attacked a checkpoint.
Okay. Sucks to suck. But at the end of the day, the League of Nations wasn't that great either, right? So that's what was created after World War I. That was supposed to be the UN, and it sucked ass. Well, guess what? Now the UN starts to suck ass. So what do? You make something different. If that's what needs to happen, that's what needs to happen. But that is up to the world to decide. That is not up to us to decide. If we want to bring it to the table and be like, yo, we're out. We're going back to isolationism. Y'all can get fucked. And
So
if you want to
So you're
create
talking
something
about making
new,
a new Justice League where we're Batman and we
no,
call the shot.
Yeah, we walk out. Otherwise, you got to change something or we walk out. Right? That's
We
basically
have a
the
plan
threat.
to murder all of them, but
no, I'm not saying we'd walk out. We'd still be part of the UN if that's what they choose. But the UN has to make the decision that now that the US isn't just going to take action because we decide that that's what we're going to do. Instead, we're going to stay out of it until the UN makes a decision that something has to happen. Then that's up to the UN to change their policies, to change their ideals, maybe even change what the UN is.
So the thing about the UN is membership into the UN and NATO is more of a symbolic thing than it is anything else. In terms of direct action and intervention into an area, the UN will never be able to act as fast as necessary to save lives. It's
Marine
just
Corps
not
can be deployed
possible.
anywhere in the world for 90 days within like 9 hours.
Yeah, nobody has that power. Nobody has the ability to intervene. So imagine if the US intervenes and then UN backs them in 60 days from later saying, okay, we approve this. And then the US has already been there for 60 days saving lives.
We've jumped the gun. In my
Sure.
opinion, we've jumped the gun.
How many people can die in 60 days?
How many people have died in the past from genocides that no one's done anything about?
Yeah, so that's the problem. It's the problem is nobody's doing anything. So if if nobody else is doing it and the US says we're not going to help and then the world just burns, are we talking about an ethical issue? Are we talking about just a financial issue? What is the worry for the United States?
Look at that SAS operative that stopped the mall shooting.
Mhm.
He had no orders. He had nothing.
But
He heard about it and he went.
But does he not have a duty just from the position that he's in to intervene?
He blew his cover.
I'm just saying.
He could have probably done long-term operations there, stayed slick, learned who all fucking was dealing with everything. But instead he goes, no, I'm not letting these people die.
Right. But
And
it's probably
acted.
because he took some sort of an oath, or he feels like he has some sort of a duty to intervene in a situation like that. The
Don't we
US
as Americans?
We have never taken an oath, nor do we have a duty to the world. We have a duty to
No,
ourselves.
we have, correct, but we have brought upon ourselves the ideology that we have done so well for ourselves that we need to pick people up with us.
I'm literally going to drop... I'm going to say something...
Vietnam.
Yeah, so I'm going to say something, and I don't mean it the way I'm going to say it, but I'm just going to say it because it's the best way to describe it. What you guys are explaining is literally being socialist with our military. Oh, we did a good job, so everyone gets it. Fuck off. We did a good job. Not everybody gets to reap the benefits of it.
So
No.
essentially, we should be like old Britain and just start colonizing foreign countries.
What
to
do you
take
think
them
we've been
over
doing?
because they can't take care of themselves in the view of the.
Look at Afghanistan.
So we
Was that
went
the
in there
best
with
choice?
no, it's not the best choice, but here's the thing. You go in there and the time that you're there, you provide services that they never had before. And then one person in the policy decision, it's a democratic country.
Right.
So flip of a coin, election changes everything, and all of a sudden everybody's being withdrawn from the area.
So are you
And-
pro-colonialism?
Am I pro-colonialism? No.
Yes.
No, there's a difference between intervening and then colonizing a place.
He asked the brown guy if he's
Yeah.
pro-colonialism.
Like,
Hey,
the
if
brown
we
guy
went
from
into an
India.
area- if we went into an area to take their resources and then just nothing else, we weren't trying to build anything, we were trying to give them anything, then that's colonialism. If you go into an area to stop something from happening and then retreating after you've resolved an issue, that's intervention.
Afghanistan was a perfect opportunity for us to build a better nation for those people. The problem was not anything to do with what we did. It was the fact that the people that were left behind were so corrupt and were so lacked the backbone to defy everything. They were more worried about making a dollar for themselves than making their country a better place, that they just fucking rolled over. Like, we would literally give gasoline to them to power the vehicles we gave them to go out on patrol to protect their neighborhoods, and they turn around and sell it to the Taliban for a fucking dollar.
So before I give Spicy a chance to talk, because he hasn't said anything yet, I want to say one more thing. So you talked about the Mujahideen, right? And they were backed, and in the end, it bit us in the ass, right?
Absolutely.
How
But that-
many U.S.-backed, I guess now terrorist groups is what you could technically call them. How
Look
many
at
of
the
those
Philippines.
occurred?
The Philippines love us.
Okay.
Viet Cong.
The Viet Cong wasn't us.
The CIA.
Yeah,
was
but
the
Vietnam's
Fre-
no,
But
Vietnam's
Viet
no
Cong hated the
longer-
French, and then they were
Yeah.
like, "Oh, fuck
They
everyone."
hated anybody
Like,
that intervened in what they were trying to do, which is basically force everybody to become a communist.
True.
Somebody stood up, the United States stood up and said, yeah, fuck you. You're not doing that. China's over there. We already know they're going to become a communist. We're not going to let you have Vietnam and have open access to the sea area there.
I would say China is one that did bite us in the ass. After we helped them repel the Japanese, they took
Wow.
a strong.
And then Mao just came out of nowhere and just said, yeah, we're communists now.
So that's one. But the Philippines love us. The Japanese, the only reason they don't like us is because fucking stupid idiots keep getting drunk and running over children with Humvees.
Yeah, just like you just have
Or
freaking dudes
fucking
in Air
throwing
Force
hookers in the
bases.
bay.
Yeah. Like
Um,
just terrible things. They just want their bases out because they're worried for their women because we can't control our own officers there for some reason. They just see these freaking Japanese women and all of a sudden they just go into weeaboo mode.
Weeaboo.
Dude,
Bigfoot
that-
weeps.
Weeboo. Weeboo.
So I'm pretty
But-
sure what Raj is describing is actually a medical condition that they suffer from over there.
Are you
The
serious?
What?
no,
No.
no.
Oh, I thought
The-
for sure he was being dead ass serious.
No.
The only other
no.
ones I can think of are the cartels and maybe some sub-Saharan African groups.
All I'm saying is a lot of these back groups that the U.S. has assisted in the past end up biting us in the ass, and I think that's a good reason to, in theory, not intervene.
What
But
would have happened
before,
if we? Okay.
I want Spicy to talk. Spicy,
Okay.
go ahead.
Oh, thank you. No, I mean, I was just letting everybody kind of get their words in. Is
I
an
know.
interesting conversation going on. So for our so-called debate here, basically, yeah, I took the side of being an isolationist, not an interventionalist. And I'll preface this with, I'll say this is a complicated issue for me because I think it's a multifaceted thing, like you guys talked about before. There's from a military standpoint, there's from an economic standpoint, there's from moral arguments, there's from logical and ethical arguments. This is a hard one for me. I say mostly I lean towards isolationism, although I'll be honest, this is not something that I research on the daily, so I may not be as well versed on it. And so I'm open to arguments that may change my point of view now or down the road. But where I stand from it on this, um, I mean, what Raj and Nick are bringing up are definitely important. They're moral arguments of why we should intervene. Coming from the background that I have, I mean, obviously from like the fire service, from security law enforcement standpoint, uh, those obviously do entail certain kinds of oaths that you take, which kind of form a moral duty to intervene. And just from the natural, just my personality in general, my religious background, Christianity, there's that kind of moral side of wanting to intervene to make sure that you're helping out your fellow man. Where I draw the line with that is when I see, like, from more of an economic standpoint, is kind of where I fall into it somewhat, and somewhat on the military side, and I'll explain that in a bit. But from the economic standpoint, um, we hear about all the time in the news, with current issues of inflation or anything else going on in the country. Obviously, those are separate a lot of times from our foreign policy budget. But if I'm not mistaken, I think we keep increasing our foreign policy budget every year. Maybe I'm not correct on that, but there are a lot of issues we have domestically, um, that if we keep increasing our foreign policy budget, even though it's a separate budget, it's still from the general money that we are dividing out amongst our country in these different budgets. And while there is a moral obligation sometimes to intervene in certain cases, one example is, I was just reading up on it today, was I don't know if you guys remember in the late 90s, the war in Kosovo.
Mhm.
So in that one, the Slobodan Milicevic, I believe, so he launched a war in Yugoslavia after multiple attempts, and basically, um, the bombing campaign that the United States was a part of really was credited with essentially ending an ethnic cleansing that was over there. So I can see that from a moral argument standpoint. But here in the United States, I mean, we've got, with the, I mean, education can't just be fixed by pouring money at it. We've seen that, but the homelessness issue we have in some states, whether it's homeless vets or it's homelessness in general, and especially in a lot of these major metropolitan cities, um, and the struggles that like some of our own people are dealing with, it is hard to argue that we continue to send more money each year and more resources, including some of our own people, to aid these countries in conflicts where a lot of them don't even want us there, or some do, and for good reason, but they're they don't have the framework in place. They're not really willing to instill that framework that we're trying to give them to better run it some of these times. And so I think our main and primary duty, aside from all these moral arguments, is that we have to take care of our own first, because they live in the United States. They're the citizens that were born here, or sometimes people immigrate here, they become U.S. citizens, all that stuff. So just the people who live here, they're members of this country. They've bought into the American ideal, all of this. They pay taxes into our country. And that's not the most important thing. Like, oh, we're not going to help you if you don't pay us. But they are the citizens of this country, and if we just focus on helping other people before we write the issues that they have here, we're doing them a deep disservice, because they're not going to get that from anybody else. They can't contact NATO or the UN or some other foreign aid group to be like, hey, we're dealing with this in America, can you fix this? They'll be like, nah, your country's got the resources to deal with it. But yeah, if you could still keep paying for our entire military budget like the Scandinavian countries, which allows them some of the more extreme socialist policies that they have, not that they're extreme, but the sense that they can afford certain policies or to go certain ways, because we do subsidize their entire military budget.
There's definitely extremes, like you were saying, about why we're spending in certain areas. Like for me personally, I don't believe that we should be giving all this money to Israel. I don't believe that we should be spending all this money. Like the fact that we were paying warlords in Afghanistan instead of fighting against them, we were paying them for information, for them to spend the same money to then use it against us.
Right.
Was just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And the amount of money that in Iraq that we spent just to get like information, just to find out that it was just bullshit information. It's kind of ridiculous. But at the same time, we have to take a look at one of the things that I can talk about as an immigrant from another country is when you go to places like India, Pakistan, you go to places that are technically third and second world countries, the US passport, the US name carries so much weight. The reason that it does is because of the power that the United States infuses into everything that it is. When you have a country with this much power, everybody wants to move to this country. You know what happens to all these countries? You want to know why all these countries can't match up to the United States? Because the best and the brightest of these countries want to come to the United States, and the United States reaps the benefit of it. That's called the brain drain. It happens in every country that isn't like a major first world nation. Most of the people in India want to go to the United States. They want to go to the UK or Germany. Those are the destinations. Sometimes Saudi if they're into business. But there's a reason that we get all these intellectuals. We get to keep the best of the best from all these different countries, because we've built that image for ourselves, and that comes with a lot of the military influence we have.
There's such a huge problem with the Middle Eastern countries that I think with a lot of our aid and a lot of the social issues that are there, and I'm speaking somewhat from experience, I mean, so a lot of it is like the pouring the $1 billion, whatever we gave to Iran, that just like disappeared that one time on a fucking flight line. That shit's fucking ridiculous. Like the foreign aid spending like that, where it's just falling away. Or we provided money to Saudi and some of these other places that we know is just to attempt to allure them to give us better gas prices or whatever. So we give them humanitarian aid. They don't fucking need it. They don't need it. The European countries with their spending, I 100% agree. It's somewhat ridiculous that we provide their entire defense spending. And I'm not for that, but in the sense of that's another projection of our power, is we are so powerful that we protect not only our borders, but somebody else's.
Right. And I think one thing that we can definitely all agree on, I would hope, is that the U.S. has many cases where we have either bought into or distributed this wealth very poorly. Mm-hmm. Like it has either been misused, come to bite us back, or it was just poor planning on our part. Like the people that gave it out should have known well enough never to give it out. So I know that's something that we can all probably agree on, even though we have different takes on this topic. And the other thing is that where you mentioned like protecting, it's an extension of our power that we can protect our own borders and also help to protect other borders. And this kind of ties into an argument of, do we have a duty to our allies? To an extent, yeah, we do. We've entered into these formal agreements with them. But there's a difference between supporting your allies and intervening in conflicts or every issue that comes up.
Well, that's kind of the projecting the Western way of life of, you know, we live large, we shoot guns, chew tobacco, that whole thing is just that is us pushing that, because yet again it goes back to a lot of like what issues we had in Afghanistan, where a lot of these people, if they got invaded, most of them, like, we make fun of the French because they roll over and fucking surrender at the first sight of, you know,
Yeah, I'm
a
part
gunshot
French,
could be
actually,
going
like,
the other way, and fucking they'd be like, oh, I give up.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed to be part French on that side, actually.
So we have these stereotypes and we joke about this, but like it goes back to all these things of look at World War I, where the United States finally got involved in France, and one of the most famous things in his part of the Marine Corps history is 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines shows up in France in the trenches. The second they get there, the French soldiers in command are like, retreat, we got to back up, keep going. Like, I don't know why you showed up here, you should fall back. And the fucking Marine command responds, retreat, hell, we just got here. And they ended up pushing back the Germans. So it's this whole, our power is projected, and we have this status, like we go back to, of nobody fucks with us, because we have this overabundance of wealth and power and this stuff. Granted, I believe some of it's a little ridiculous. I'm the first one to say that a lot of the humanitarian relief money we give out is superfluous.
Like giving
Good word.
$6.8 billion to Ukraine, which was not allowed to join NATO because of their history of horrendous corruption within all level of governments there.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
now we have spent more to fight a proxy war against Russia and Ukraine than we've invested in the 20 years in Afghanistan and Iraq.
No, I agree. Or that a lot of that's ridiculous. And you know, this whole political stuff of who's friends and the political scape of world politics of,
Mhm.
you know, this wouldn't have happened underneath this president's rule, but now this guy's given billions of dollars, which will probably end up in somebody else's hands that it shouldn't be in.
Yeah, but I don't care if you're on the Democratic side or even a lot of Republicans nowadays. Like, everybody's in special interests. Like, everybody's basically in it for their own financial gain for the most part. You know,
Mhm.
rarely do you find somebody who's really coming to the table with the genuine ideology. And
Absolutely.
they're just all this stuff that they're like, we're giving it to this aid, or like we're pushing this bill through because we've got all these billions of dollars going to this relief aid. When you actually break it down, it's only like a small fraction of that is going to what it's actually intended to. The rest of it's going to paying off all this extra research stuff that these people are friends with and embedded with. They're like these like overseas dumb, like some of the stuff that I've read that we have paid for, these overseas dumb studies that have no actual tangible benefit,
Yeah.
that essentially is wrapped up into a foreign policy budgets that we give to these people.
No, I'm totally the first one to say that our spending needs to be reorganized. I mean, from my firsthand experience, I went on my first deployment and I went to Afghanistan, and I spent days wading through water, fucking wadis, all different kinds of stuff, shit water.
Where'd you
In
find
the same
water?
pair. So I was in a river valley at one point, and it was during the tail end of the rainy season, and it was horrible.
Dang.
And then I went to the most dry, hot area where like we
Yeah.
hit 116, 122 degrees regularly.
Gross.
Ugh.
And I was standing 16 hours in a turret and wearing the same boots, to the point where my boots got probably so hot that they fucking just vacuum melted to my foot.
Mhm.
And we turn around and we get dispatched for our second deployment, which is we were going to go to Kuwait and we were going to perform security detail for the base, as well as fly support for bombing missions in Iraq and Syria.
Yeah.
We're like, cool, we're going to get all new gear. It's going to be great. Like, we're due for new gear. It's a new deployment. And when we went through, we got our new camis, our new stuff like that. We got our cold weather gear, all this. And then it came for a time when we're like, hey, where's our new boots? He said, we couldn't afford to get you guys new boots.
Oh,
You guys got some last year for your deployment. You don't need new boots. And I just looked at the guy and I went, dude, I stood 16 hours a day in a turret for however many months. My boots are blown out.
That's the thing. That
I'll try and
usage is
find him
way
here in just a
harder
minute,
than
and I'll
normal.
fucking show you guys on camera. I know not everyone will be able to see the camera, but I'll show them on camera. They're fucking disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, they're not meant for that type of usage. Like, yeah, they're designed for it, but like they're meant to be like if you
One
use
and
them for
done.
one and done.
Use
Like
them
one deployment and you're done.
3-6 months, and they're throw them in the trash.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
just
much.
But we got fucking the Air Force got F-35 Lightning IIs, and we sold some to whoever and ever for $35 billion or whatever. But I can't get a new pair of fucking boots. Like,
Dang.
I'm the first one to say that fucking spending's ridiculous. We got told we had to fucking either shoot ammo or throw it in the dirt if we didn't shoot it, because if we didn't expend enough ammo, we wouldn't get as much ammo next year.
Oh
yeah.
God.
It's like a budget.
it's a logistics thing.
It
Means
is, because if you
use it
don't
or
use
lose
what
it.
you're given, they're going to decrease what you're given.
And you're talking about we're deploying. We were the tip of the spear. 1st Battalion, the 7th Marines as a whole was literally the tip of the spear for anything in the Middle East for about 5-10 years. And that was between 17, 27, 37, and we just rotated on a cycle. And they went through some of the worst of Afghanistan, you know, the brunt of the war on ISIS, and we were just given shit. It just seems in the last like 2 years, the Marine Corps finally decided, oh, we need to fix how we do this. They've given tanks away to the Army. So the Marine Corps has no more armored divisions. They've given a lot of the aerospace, satellite communication stuff back to the Air Force and the Space Force. So you're shedding a lot of that weight.
Potato.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
I'm just
Uh,
waiting for those dudes to make Captain Planet, and he's just going to go there.
So they've condensed down to what they think is the razor edge. Like, it is meant to be hot, fast, and fucking on the go.
Hey, that's the only way I know how.
Exactly.
Dang.
So it's fucking, they've got M27 IARs, which are fucking full auto fucking machine guns that replace the SAW with suppressors and LPVOs and all this stuff. But
So
it's
what
only
size-
because they've cut all this extra that they can then actually give the people what they need. Whereas they spend fucking God knows what else on everything else without even thinking twice about it. But I
So-
have to fucking ask for extra boots.
Yeah,
So economy wise, I'm all for fucking fuck a lot of those other people with all of this extra money. But if
Yeah.
we're gonna fucking put our people on the ground, they need to have all the fucking money and gear and shit that they need.
Well, yeah, if we get into a conflict, that you definitely don't want to cut corners there.
But that's what we've been doing. We've been just fucking throwing money
Right.
at problems rather than, if you're gonna put fucking boots on the ground to fucking straighten it out, give them every option, every opportunity, every measure of safety that they can have.
No, I think the issue, it's a reward system now for bad behavior versus a punishment. So we have a problem that happens in the world and we reward it by trying to fix money into it. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
all the bad people get their hands into the honeypot. Whereas it used to be a punishment model where you did something bad, you were going to get the bullet, not the dollar bill.
Eh.
To the degree, if you
Well,
were doing
Americans do value American lives, which I
Mhm.
100% agree with. Like, if you're going to put American lives in danger where you have 13 dead over at an airport, like, it better be worth it, not a fucking Saigon Part 2.
Yeah.
because then you're gonna see the full force come in at you, and there's gonna be no negotiating. They're gonna come in weapons hot.
No, so
we
this
should
is a-
only intercede if there's a issue against America.
No,
no,
That's
we
just one
help, but
example.
if you touch America, we'll fucking burn you to the ground.
So I think any of us isolationists would agree with that, though.
Yeah.
If you touch America, everything's off the table, man. You attack
So-
our base, you attack our people.
So let me put you in the
Embassy.
understanding of what I had on my first
Embassy.
deployment. I normally wear a morning band. I took it off because I took a shower. But I had a sergeant who died on my first deployment. He was providing security for a meet between American generals and Afghan generals. During the night beforehand, they took a lot of small arms fire from a tree line. And this sergeant, who was a scout sniper, who had no business being in the turret, was directing fire from outside the vehicle and inside and keeping his guys on target and repelling this enemy force. Sun is about to come up. They know that they're going to have this issue with this tree line again. Rather than have fucking PFC Schmuckatelli or fucking Lance Corporal dipshit in the turret, he goes, no, I'm the fucking guy. I know what I'm fucking doing. I'm going to be in the turret.
Yeah.
So he's there watching. They spray a machine gun to cover up a sniper shot that takes him in the head. He ends up getting medevac to Germany, dies en route, the whole 9 yards. They had ISR up when that guy was shot. They tracked that individual that shot the sergeant back to where he lived. I'm not saying this is the Lord's Bible on what happened, but from what I was told, about 6 HIMARS were dropped on that village where that guy went back to. If you guys know what HIMARS are, they're fucking like vehicle fired battery of rockets that are guided. They're like 155 millimeter rockets.
Mm-hmm.
Needless to say, village no longer exists. And whatever was there, from what I was told, there was one guy that tried to run out of the rubble after trying to shoot at them, and a dude shot him dead. And that was it. So you fuck on us, we'll fuck on you.
No, that's not to say that wasn't
that right
that
there.
wasn't. Oh,
that right
God,
there is
dude.
a fucking HIMAR.
Yeah.
It can fire 6 of those in like 20 seconds.
So I guess I'm with Gooch on this one, where I think that the isolationism view would still agree with that. Obviously, no attacks against America. You're gonna get touched badly if you do that.
Yeah.
And
American
I would
forces
say
were doing nothing wrong. It was just to set up a meet. It was the same thing as if fucking we went to the UK to talk to Prince fucking William or whatever his fucking
Prince
name is.
Rapist, yeah.
That's the older one. That's
But
Charles.
I think where I come in at a lot of this stuff is even with a more isolationist leaning view, I am not saying that the US should never intervene or there wouldn't be enough of a moral argument to intervene. But I think where I stand on it, it's more of from the economic side, but then in general, we just need to be much, much more selective on what we do and how we do it. Like we really need to, we've got so many issues to sort out in our own country that like we can't afford to be sorting out all of these other ones before we put that priority first. I think really it's not that I don't want to help people, and this is where I come at it from as well. I would love to help everybody with their problems. The harsh reality of this world is I can't. There is a prioritization in emergency scenarios. If I have yeah, it's a triage process. If I have 2 people over here getting into a fight versus these 3 people who are fighting with knives versus this dude who's doing an active shooting right now, some people are going to die because I have to make a hard call. It's like, well, in that line of work, or, this person is in this scenario over here and they likely could die. This person is going to die if I don't intervene. So I have to make that hard judgment call, and that's not easy for anybody that's in any type of scenario, whether it be military, police, fire, EMS. That's where you get into the mental games of all the stuff that happens, aftermath with that. I mean, but
where do you draw the line politically then?
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say, because it's just I feel like we're already doing that. You think the things that we hear about in the world are the only things happening? We're only hearing about them because they're the most important or the most evident things that are happening at the moment. There's thousands of other crimes and travesties happening throughout the world that we'll never hear about, but we're already being selective about what we do with them.
I
still
know
just
I'm
don't
privy
think
to
we're
a couple
being-
of like special operations pages and things like that talk about a lot of the shootings, the multiple murders that happen in countries in Africa or even in Asia, Southeast Asia, some of the Pacific Islands. There's massive amounts of stabbings, shootings, all kinds of stuff that have.
Did you guys know that
ethnic or
ISIS took
religious
over an
basis.
entire area of I think Indonesia,
Mhm.
and held an entire city? Like,
Actually,
I didn't know about it.
I vaguely remember
Really?
hearing about
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
didn't know
ISIS
about it.
involvement over there.
The entire Indonesian army went in and just razed that city to the ground. They didn't even
God.
bother with like an intervention. They just bombed the entire city to the
They
ground.
pulled a Fallujah.
Yeah.
So either if you're still here when we come, you're considered an enemy.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, that's just something like we didn't even bother intervening in that. We weren't involved in that because we knew that the Philippine army could handle it, and they took care of the business that they needed to because we had trained them. We had given them information. We had given them all the things they need to handle their business, and they're an actually professionally run army. So we said, okay, you guys handle this, and they did. But sometimes we don't run into the most of the problems don't happen in countries with a good government or with a valid military taking place. A lot of this stuff happens in severely corrupt areas where the soldiers are most likely both Taliban and army. That's what we're dealing with. So it's not as easy as just saying, oh, we'll be selective on what we want to be. We just kind of have to take the risks as the predominant country in the world. This is the greatest experiment in democracy that's ever been done in the history of the planet. That is what the United States is. That's the product of it. So at a certain point, if we want other countries to experience democracy and we don't want to be threatened by other forms of government in the world that could possibly have opposite ideals to us, we have to be involved.
Why is that
Show
our
them the
job,
benefit of
though?
it. We have to
Do you
show
want-
them the benefits so that they would want to see the great,
But
I guess, the great reward of
So-
what we have.
this is like a drug addict going to rehab, though, right? So you can take the drugs out of the addict, but you can't take the addict out of the drugs. If you send them back right into that environment, they're just going to start using again. And that's been
Mhm.
proven time and time again. Same thing like abusive relationships. You can take that person out of that relationship, but they're most likely going to get back into another abusive relationship or the same one that they left.
Yeah, but that
We-
doesn't mean you stop trying. That doesn't mean you stop giving them help.
But how
Yes,
much
it
money
does.
do you
No,
put into
that's
that?
not how it works.
Whoa.
There
I'm
is
a
a
cr-
limit.
I'm
No.
currently a corrections officer at Ingham County Jail. And you know what? If I fucking just said, oh, every fucking meth addict in here is a piece of shit because they've been in jail since they were fucking 16, we would have,
So-
we'd get nowhere. with
You
it.
wouldn't have a
I'd see the
corrections
same-
facility. You'd have a dungeon.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
basically what it would be.
Yeah,
The
it would turn into
problem
the
is,
old
though-
school insane asylum where you just lock somebody in and throw away the key and call it good.
So the problem is, though, is that if they themselves as individuals don't want to make the changes they need to be a successful and productive member of society, they will continuously be in that circle, no matter how much money you give them, no matter how much rehab they go through, no matter how many days they spend in jail. They are going to continue that cycle unless they want out.
But
Yep,
you're gonna
sure.
stop giving them that option to correct themselves.
Yeah,
You're
because
gonna pull.
it's like a
You're gonna pull
toddler.
away and say no. You've
But
had
so
enough."
talking about Afghanistan, we talked about it. There were women on the street protesting against the Taliban,
knowing they could be shot and killed,
knowing they could
any
be
of them all.
killed because they've tasted that freedom. They've tasted what it was like to be free and have their own life, and they're willing to die to fight the Taliban for it, which would not have happened pre-US invasion of Afghanistan.
There
Bro,
are
there's a
still
limit,
currently
though.
so many people that are actually still fighting. There's literally a whole valley. I don't know if anyone's talked about it on the news or anything, but there's
Bryce
a
did
whole,
a thing on it.
yeah, there's a whole valley in Afghanistan that's literally full of thousands of fighters that said, you know what, I'm not going to roll over and take Taliban rule.
And so see the exact same
And
thing,
they've
right?
been repelling the Taliban for
Gooch, you wanted to say
months.
something.
Because they want the change. We up
Which-
and left Afghanistan in a state that
We should have never
that
left.
They could have.
No, we shouldn't
Oh.
have left, but they tasted the freedom and they tasted what democracy could be. And then when it was taken away from them, they themselves decided it's worth fighting for.
So we
Then those are the
do we
people
stay
that
there
will be
another
like
20
us.
years?
The
in
conditions that
1776.
the conditions that we had
we
when we
initiated
were
that.
leaving,
But it's not our job
They-
to give them everything.
the conditions we had when we were leaving, we were not giving them anything more than what they had. We were simply just
Spent
being-
20 years training their military to give up in a week.
because the average fucking
We
Joe
gave them
can't figure it out.
helicopters, Humvees, tanks, weaponry, nods, uniforms, armor,
I'm aware.
ammunition. Yeah,
Trust
me,
yeah,
I'm
aware.
firsthand. So they gave up in a matter of
And
a
I'm
week
I'm
after
still
20 years
for
of
it.
training.
I'm still for it because the position that we were in when we left, we could have stayed that way. We hadn't had a casualty in like 8 months.
So we stay there another 20, 40, 60, 80.
I mean,
We
100,
weren't
150
losing
years.
anything.
We weren't losing.
We weren't
people.
losing anything.
What were we gaining?
we were giving those people freedom.
What were we gaining? We were
Yes,
giving them
no.
so much, and we
Yeah,
were getting
but
nothing.
We were
we're
giving
not- we're
people
not
the
a
opportunity
mercenary
to
force.
experience us.
The United States military is not a mercenary force. We don't do anything for gain.
So
we
we
do it-
just continue to give until we have nothing left to give, and we're in the same
The-
shithole that they're in.
The main purpose
sorry,
is
like-
if you imagine if we had succeeded in Afghanistan and we have a democratic state in the middle of all of the bullshit that's happening. We have a democratic state that's loyal to us, that is able to hold our bases, that's able to fight with us.
Sounds like a colonial country.
No, that counts like everything that happens in the world.
They're
Like,
loyal to us.
yes,
As
They
in,
are
as in a
loyal.
symbiotic relationship, not
they're
a
loyal
fucking,
to us because we stood by them, not because we own them.
They're loyal to us because we gave them money.
And we
No.
took them out of a Taliban rule.
It would also be just another Israel if we're going to be honest with ourselves.
You're
Everyone
not
would attack
entirely
them.
wrong. You're
No.
not entirely wrong.
So
But
we just
basically the whole point is to have friends in these areas that are very hostile towards democracy, that are pro-democratic, and we support them because that allows us to extend our reach.
You're
further
talking about
inland.
Arab nations that still pretty much have slavery without in everything but the name.
Yeah.
Like, you know who fucking ran our
And-
chow halls when I was in Afghanistan? Fucking Africans.
and the only way that their ideology can change is if they change it themselves. We can't force a Western ideal into their culture if they're
Yep.
not willing to accept it.
But we
Yeah,
can
but-
give them
but
the
we can-
opportunity to experience it. And if they say, oh, you know what? I like this.
We do give them that
Yeah.
opportunity. They can come here.
No, it's not that easy. Look at
So-
the immigration process. It is not that easy. I'm gonna tell you right now, it is not
What
that
immigration process? We let anyone come in anyways. Get
No.
in-
That's
just
only if they
cross-
come through
cross the
fucking
border.
Mexico.
easy. Yeah, if they come
And
through
they do.
Mexico,
They
yeah,
do.
But the minority, that's a minority of people that can even afford to take or pay the amount that it takes to go from Afghanistan down to South America up through Mexico. That is
majority of
not how it
people
works. How
Coming
many?
through the southern border are not Hispanic or Central American.
Sure.
They're from the Middle East and Europe and Africa
Yes.
that are crossing the southern border. So they have the means to get here because they have been.
It's a minority compared to the people that are stuck in their own shithole. It's a minority compared to the number of people that actually want to come here.
All
How
right,
many
so-
how many interpreters did we leave in these godforsaken countries that deserve to be here because they helped us?
on
How
a
many?
little political snippet because the Biden administration fucked that one up by just letting who knows what type of Taliban or other Islamic ideologies for extremism to get on planes and fly through Europe and the United States without proper process.
So hold on. Time out.
It's the refugees.
Let's take it down just a notch here. And I want to pose a question for everybody. So we keep saying these people aren't experiencing what we're experiencing, thusly they must be suffering in some way, shape, or form, basically. And I would argue that we as Americans, although obviously the views are skewed, we feel like we're suffering right now. Because not a lot of Americans
Jesus, dude.
not a lot of Americans are happy with the political processes that are occurring. Not a lot of people are happy with the civil unrest that's occurring. And so here's the deal. People from those countries, get my hand in there. People from these countries only know that. They got their taste. I see what you're saying. I understand that point. But that's what they were used to. That's what they've always had. And we're like, oh, we're just going to make it better. And it didn't work, right? We tried. So then we have us, right? And we might say, I'm unhappy where I live as well because of what I'm seeing in my country. So if you're unhappy with things, you have two choices, okay? You can either fix it. Well, you have three. You can fix it, deal with it, or leave. But there's really the only three choices you have, right?
Yeah.
The US has proven multiple times that they will fix it. Now, how do they fix it? Well, it depends based off of what time frame you want to talk about.
Oh,
These other countries,
legislation.
right? These other countries have not shown, and I think this is what Tim is getting at, that they're at the point where they're like, I am so unhappy that I'm gonna fix it.
They haven't known anything else.
They haven't
You're
known
talking
anything
about
else.
people.
Neither did the
you're talking about
US.
You're talking about people in Afghanistan that fucking
Dude.
don't know more than the Stone Age.
Listen to
Most
me
of
though.
the people that were rebelled against the British Empire were educated. They were empire educated people that had the
Yes.
ability for
The
free
French
thought.
that rebelled were educated people. The fucking Americans that were rebelled were fucking educated people. You don't have uneducated, like,
Sheep don't rebel against
Yeah.
wolves unless they know how to
Serfish
fight
people.
wolves.
But the US, I know you're saying we were educated, and I agree. There was a very high percentage of US citizens, but pre 1776.
Not just the citizens, the people that were in power to make those decisions were highly educated.
But they weren't the ones fighting, man. Everyone that signed the Declaration of
It
Independence,
doesn't. Not
only
everyone
a
needs to
handful
be
of them
smart.
actually fought.
Not everybody needs to be smart. You just need the people that are in
So
the
how
top.
is that any
charismatic.
different than what you guys are trying to fight? You're
Because
telling me that not everybody that fought in the Revolutionary War was educated, nor were they necessarily smart.
yes,
Majority
There
of
are
them
people in those countries that I guarantee you have education in some way, shape, or form. They have the will and the spirit to fight for it, but they haven't decided that it's to the point where they need to.
those people were exterminated before they even had a chance.
that is the best. That was their best option, was when they went to go back to power, is the people who said yes, who quivered, or they took the person that said, fuck you, no, they shot him and then looked at everyone else and they went, oh, okay, yeah, no, it's a good idea.
They either are exterminated or they have fled to the United States or other countries because they were smart enough to leave. That's basically the life that they've had.
So
Whereas
Look at
in
all
the-
of our Terps. Those people are highly educated. They
Mhm.
spoke both English and whatever different dialects we needed them to. And the first thing they were doing were holding on to fucking airplanes to try and get away.
they knew that what they were doing mattered to the people that they were working with, but they also knew that what they were doing could also get them and their family killed. These were brave people. They weren't hiding.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were literally standing next to the army, the military.
However many of
interpreting
them
for them.
stepped on IEDs themselves.
Mhm.
I watched videos of it where the interpreter is one of the guys in the line and he's the one that fucking hits it.
They know, and then they get left behind. That's just the way the game works. They sign a thing saying thank you for your service. Here, go to the embassy, and we'll get you
Thankfully,
over
mine
here.
made it here. Mine made it
after
here. It's
the
in
United
Texas.
States gave a list to the Taliban of the people to let through the checkpoints.
Yeah,
These high value targets were now
this is
Don't
all
even
policy.
don't
This
even
is
get
all
me started on
policy.
that.
Policy versus the ideal is what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
Policy can be whatever the fuck it is. People
Yeah.
will make bad decisions, but the ideal has to be there that we will try to help. That is what interventionism is.
And you know what? Even now, with the Taliban being in charge, even if we choose now to recognize them, to lift them up, to be held accountable on the political stage of the world as their own power,
to rape and abuse and sell women.
I would
as-
never
Don't-
even.
get me started on what all that entails. But if we do, we give them that chance to flop on the world stage and then show them, you know what, we tried to help you. And then we can go back and be like, you know what, you clearly can't handle this.
There's enough people in Afghanistan that will fight against these people. Now, I truly believe that even though Taliban has overall power, they have no money because we pretty much have all of their money in a bank in New York. They have all their power. Desperation will cause people to revolt.
Yeah.
When it gets so desperate and they see that we were there, they were able to have a sense of living and a sense of worth. And then now that we're gone, safety, now that we're gone, this new government has no culpability, has no idea what they're doing. When it gets so desperate now, they will realize, oh my God, we had it so good with democracy.
The only problem is even when we were there, the Afghan government did not expand beyond the city.
One of the issues, I don't know, recently, like Vice News is a pretty interesting place to get some global stuff. They are very left leaning in a lot of things, but recently they did a documentary in Afghanistan, and Afghanistan is having a migratory, I'm not sure like how to word this right, but so many people are leaving and trying to enter Pakistan to get to, the rights that, because granted, like in perspective, Pakistani people have way better
Western
condition
culture.
living, right? So in their mentality of like, oh, well, this is our country, why aren't they fighting for it? Because it's easier for them to just flee, right? Mm-hmm. They don't risk the death of trying to make their country, their current people, and their future generations free in Afghanistan.
Because they've only known true brutality. Us in Western culture like to think of ourselves civilized, and we are to a certain point. You don't understand the level of brutality they did to their people on a daily basis, that they do now on a daily basis.
So let me give you an example of a country that actually did rise up, made the changes they had to, and they are considerably better than they were, although it's not perfect. And it was recent.
Libya?
Egypt.
Oh, Egypt, yes.
With
Egypt
Gaddafi.
Perfect, yep.
Gaddafi, yeah.
Yeah.
They rose up.
That's Egypt and Libya, yeah.
Yeah, they got rid of them. They killed them, literally. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. There's still a lot of laws. There's still a lot of things that are kind of edgy. But they have a lot more freedoms than they did under Gaddafi.
Yeah, but here's the thing. But Egypt was also a modern state for the most part.
And
they had
by Western culture.
They're supplied by Western cultures. They had education. Egyptian universities are well known throughout the world.
The
Afghanistan
UK has
universities are
millions into that country.
So what I'm hearing though is you're saying that maybe there's stages then, that countries that go from third to first as they go through. So if Afghanistan isn't there, how the fuck are we just going to push that forward?
We have to show them what the possibilities are.
But it's not our job to push them forward. We don't skip steps.
No. We could have still sat there the way we were.
Mm-hmm.
We gave, for one, we gave our military experience, time overseas, purpose, a lot of these things.
How long?
For as long as necessary. It wasn't, like I said, it was not hurting us.
So then the United States should have a presence in every single country on this planet to show them what democracy is for as long.
Don't we already? We have embassies.
We have embassies. We have bases
which have Marines on them.
Of the world. What are you talking about?
That's not a military.
That can have Marines on them in fucking 21 hours.
Yeah, because that's what Marines, are defensive force for embassies, right? Embassies are not military bases.
It's just it's a handshake, basically. It's a physical handshake.
We'll cooperate with you. You cooperate with us.
Yes, but before we left,
it's a shining bastion.
We were just there as a threat. We weren't there as we're going to patrol every corner of the village. We were just there as a threat in case they got out of hand.
We protected our sovereign areas.
Yes. Like
we
bases.
Did peacekeeping patrols in which we did security missions around our bases. They didn't fuck with us. We didn't fuck with them. My guys, when we were in fucking Iraq, they were peacekeeping patrols around their base. They were just peacekeeping positions and they kept getting mortared. So you want to know what they did? They fucking mortared back. And you know what? They didn't fucking get mortared again.
It's the threat of the U.S. being there will stop these people from attacking and doing terrible things. We don't even have to do anything. We'll just be there. We'll just send people over to chill out, have a beer, sit around, do some drills, hang out. And that's all it takes for these guys to stay in their little holes.
When I was in Sangin, which was one of the hottest beds of Taliban fighting. It had the Fallen 25, the most bloody time in Afghanistan, in which 3-5 experienced 25 KIAs and over 100 injured in 6 months. The worst of it all. And you know what? They wouldn't fuck with us the whole time I was there. They didn't hardly fuck with us. When my seniors were there, they would do harassing fire. That was the worst. And they would go, oh, look at us. We shot at the Americans and they won't come out of their hole. But you want to know what? They never fucking actually accurately engaged us or poked their head out for more than 2 seconds because they knew it would get blown clean off the second they did. But you know what? The second we left, they blew it all to fucking hell. My sergeant, who was on the deployment which took Sangin, who was on the Fallen 25 deployment, who was then on the deployment in which we handed it over to the Afghans, watched that base fall as we left from the fucking rearview mirror of a truck. He watched them blow it all to hell and kill everyone that he had helped.
We don't know if it would have only taken another 10 years for us to get the country that we were hoping for in that area, or if it would have taken another 5 years or another 20 years. But policy, like I said, being separate from the ideal of what we were trying to do, created the shitstorm that we were in. So it doesn't matter who is in power. Policy will always cause an issue because it's all based on politics and what people are feeling at that time. And we are so short term in our thought that we will only worry about what's happening right now and not what we could have in another 5 to 10 years.
We only think in 4-year cycles.
Yeah. So think about how much money we gave to Ukraine compared to what we spent in all these other countries. So what was another 5 years for us in that area?
So I'd like to
Hide
interject on
Biden's
this.
illegal actions.
Go ahead, Spicy.
So I kind of want to pose a question, whether it's more rhetorical in a sense or not. You know, I hear all these things and they're important. You know, some of it's anecdotal, some of it is based on policy, some of it is, like I said, the moral arguments. When is the ideal not enough? Like, if you just have the ideal that you're trying to give these people, and we love our country. I mean, I think everybody here does. So I know for a fact everyone here does. Like, we love our country. We love that ideal Western democracy, the American way, like the dream of America. I'm a sleeper.
They're listening.
Listen, Raj, you're welcome with us. But so
Kill John Lennon.
But where I'm going with it is that, you know, we would love for everybody to experience this, obviously on the front of immigration, not just illegal immigration, but legal immigration. We can't take everybody. Like, there has to be some kind of limit.
We want the brightest and the best.
But that's why we give
even,
these people their own opportunity in their own lands.
No. I'm not even getting on the immigration topic. Like, that's a whole different conversation. But, you know, when is the ideal not enough? We have a limited number of resources and people. Yes, I get that we hadn't had a casualty in 8 months in Afghanistan. Things were actually in a pretty stable environment. Nothing guaranteed that was going to stay like that. However, and we don't, like Raj said, we didn't know if it was going to take 5, 10, 15, 20. It could take 35 years, like, for them to finally be stable and ready to go. But honestly, to me, it comes down to a point that, you know, yes, maybe you can show some people like, oh, no problem. But yeah, maybe you can show some people, you know, the way American democracy is, you can give them that taste. But honestly, too, to me, not just the monetary cost that we dump into these countries for things like this, but the American lives and people that we put over there to fight for it and to be at risk. To me, the onus is on the country to show first, before we do anything, that they are willing to do what is necessary and they are willing to fight back and accept what needs to be done and have the actual ability to carry it out. Also, if we go around and we're like, let's give everybody a taste of America, let's give everybody a taste of that democratic Western freedom that we all enjoy here, which is something I think is very important, and I don't take it for granted. I would not want to live anywhere else. But if we did that everywhere, the truth of the matter is many countries are not going to accept that. They're going to see it as an occupation force across the entire globe from America, of us thinking that we are better than everybody else. There are countries who do not subscribe to the same political, socioeconomic, or religious systems or anything of that sort that are going to accept the Western ideology of democracy. There are many countries that outrightly despise it and wish death to America.
But
We've
those are
already shown that
generally
discretion.
but those are generally dictatorships or very oppressive government regimes that are opposed to that kind of stuff. Because the moment they lose power, they know it's their head in a noose.
But I think it still stands that these countries, a lot of them may have small little conflicts or skirmishes, and a lot of them not even to that level. Why is the onus on the U.S. to step in and start the process when their country hasn't shown the necessary will to do it themselves?
Show me how many sub-Saharan African countries we've stepped in on.
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's
I'll
not
be
much.
honest that I don't know.
Not
Not
many.
many.
Not
Not
many.
many.
Most of the democratic countries in the world did not need our intervention to see that democracy was the best. But what we do is in countries where people don't have the ability to even taste it, we try to give them an idea of what that's going to be like by showing them. We don't go into the country, grab their land and say, hey, we're running your government.
Right.
We only
that
step
would be
in when it gets so bad that we need to be like, hey, you guys need some help. Like, can we help you guys out a little bit? And then we'll try to, usually we don't just go into a country just weapons hot anyway. We usually try to come in diplomatically, try to
And
come
we
in with other
s-
ways.
The ones we do come into, we start with a subtle push, whether it's soft units, whether it's diplomatic envoys that have, assets attached to them that, if needed, can protect
We
themselves.
bombed
It's a lot of-
Baghdad for 3 days.
Yeah, because fuck that dude.
It's
but
Saddam Hussein.
Fuck that dude and all of his friends.
But where I'm at is like, honestly, like I said, it's not from a place of non-compassion. I would love for everybody to be able to experience this in every country to be in a stable, functioning way. What cost are we willing to incur on our own front to try to make that happen? It's not even a guarantee, but to just present that little crumb and morsel of hope that they can do it.
it always comes back to my just standard fucking one sentence. Why is it our job? Fucking Great Britain has freedom. All the Western European countries and most of the Eastern European experience of pretty decent democratic government led by freedom.
Canada's going down the hole, but I mean, they're still free for the most part.
Yeah, Canada's free. I just don't understand why it's our job. Because to be fair, I think honestly, like a whole Great Britain, Canada, France, like Germany, if those 4 kind of got together, they could do
France
a pretty decent
France
job.
would turn and run. We'd have to worry about Germany committing another Holocaust.
Australia was already committing war crimes in Afghanistan, apparently. So that's a problem altogether.
I watched videos of that where they
Yeah,
just
yeah.
fucking shoot random fucking people.
Oh my god!
In the
I didn't know
fields,
that.
yeah.
I've seen it was literally a dude just fucking tilling his field, happened to be out tilling during a firefight, and that guy goes, well, he's still tilling during a firefight, so he must be a bad guy, and blows the dude's fucking head off.
Oh my god!
So
Yeah,
the
with an Enfield.
problem is the precedent has already been set. The world views us as Big Daddy USA.
And
That
we're
is
the
just
only
the way it
ones
is.
that actually hold the leash on our
Yeah.
own fucking people. We're the
But
only
just
ones that
be-
do it.
I will say though, just because the world has that view, because we have done it in the past, does not mean that we are obligated to keep that.
Thank
If
you.
you want to have power in the world stage, you can't have both. You can either have a say in what's happening in the world, or you can sit around and just let the world do whatever it needs to. If you let the world do whatever it wants to do and you just sit around, guess what? You are always going to be reactionary. You'll never be in the decision-making table.
What's scarier? A lion going berserk on the village, or a lion in its den that you can't see that everyone says kills the first person, whoever walks into the den? Is one scarier than the other, or are they equally scary? That's a better question.
One's already aggressive, so he's much scarier.
Okay.
Well, no,
But I
think so.
would say
I'd be
I-
afraid of the lion.
Time
in the
out.
den.
Time out.
You
But
know
I'll say
where the
this at
lion
this.
is.
I'll
You
say
don't
this
have
at
to walk
this.
the
Yeah,
lion.
they know where we are.
I'll say this at the same time. Most people
USA.
are more likely to attack the lion that keeps tearing people's heads off. I'll give this one to if you want to go by that philosophy, more people are likely to attack the one that keeps attacking people than the one that sits in the den.
What if
I
it
will
only
say that.
attacks the raiders that come in the dark and eat and kills all the regular village people?
No, I
Like
understand
special
that
operations.
the one
Yes.
that comes and kills the poachers. The lion that only hunts poachers, I'm all for.
Yeah, I mean, this is a stupid analogy, but I can understand what it means by like, because the thing is, like, you're going to be, if you're gonna hide in your hole, going by that analogy, you're a lion, you're fierce, nobody wants to mess with you, you're in your hole. Guess what? Without you even knowing, they've built a fence around your hole.
Well,
Yeah,
my thing is,
or they forget that you're there
Damn it.
and they grow their memory grows short and they go, that lion, he probably died a long time ago. He probably don't exist anymore.
Yeah, but
Start
then
doing
somebody-
whatever the fuck, and then we got to finally all of a sudden whip it on and fix everyone's
Right.
problem.
Somebody will eventually poke it. You make your point. You go back. That's kind of where I'm going with it.
Do you let the little embers burn and turn into a raging wildfire, or do you allow yourself to suppress those embers before they turn into anything bigger? Sometimes you get burned. Sometimes you get burned. That just happens.
So should we involve ourselves in every civil war between the Sunnis and Shiites? Because they've been at war with themselves for the past 2,000 plus
No,
But look
years.
at- but look
the
at-
US doesn't get involved with India, Pakistan.
Why
No,
not?
it doesn't happen.
Why not?
Because that's not their problem.
Because
It's
they'll
in
figure
in
it out.
Escalation.
Exactly. That's not our problem. That's theirs.
Yeah,
They're-
but you're
their
talking about.
problem.
But they're both
Yeah.
capable of coming to a table and talking about it. at some
But they
point.
don't.
That
So
is-
why should we intervene?
How many people have died? How many people have died?
That's
in
not
that
our
conflict?
problem.
How many people have died in that conflict compared to what's happening between two ethnic minorities that are uneducated, that have no way of coming to the table and talking it through without a bigger force?
You're
being
talking
there
about
to
tribes that will literally erase each other from the fucking.
So why don't we give
earth.
them democracy?
That's what we tried.
That's what we're talking about doing.
But they'll never accept it.
That's you don't know that.
But we can at least say, hey, you fucking stay in your corner. You stay in your corner.
So we go to fight to try and give them
So then
democracy.
we go back to the whole Israel thing. We split them down the middle. You got one, you get the other, and then they'll just fight still.
Hey,
continuously as we continue to fund their civil war.
Mm-hmm.
well, and I think what's important to remember is that just because we're saying we shouldn't get involved in some of these things doesn't mean the U.S. is completely withdrawing from the world stage. I know at that point, Raj, I know you said, you'll have no power in the sphere of the world because nobody's going to respect them at that point, if I'm misphrasing that.
No, you're good. That's basically what it is.
But it's not saying that the U.S. is not going to be involved in global trade. We're not going to be involved in certain things. We're not going to be involved in some humanitarian relief. It's not even saying that we aren't going to dispatch some kind of, small forces to deal with a certain issue that is within our purview.
Mm-hmm.
But it's where I was talking about earlier, I think there's just some things that we are selective on what we get involved in, but we may not be selective enough.
Well, that's what we were saying. We were talking about U.S. is not going to get involved with an India-Pakistan dispute, India-China dispute, because guess what? They're two nations with established governments that can come to the table and figure something out. But if two ethnic minorities are going to war in Africa and there's nobody there to step in, yeah, we might have to send a diplomatic team in there to do something.
The Falkland Wars. Time out. The Falkland Wars. Do you know anything about the Falkland Wars?
Yes, the tiny island south of Argentina.
The Falkland Islands.
They're fighting over penguins.
Yeah. So, and that was between Argentina and the UK. What did the Americans' response to that was?
I guess I don't know.
Not fucking dick.
Yeah, because the UK was gonna win.
To be fair, fighting over penguins.
What do you mean,
isn't exactly a
Argentina?
war.
Argentina.
Yeah,
Argentina
UK versus
is 100
Argentina.
Okay, their military might be superior, but Argentina has 100 times more people than the UK.
Who the fuck cares? Dude,
Also,
the UK
fucking
the
sheep
UK
farmers.
has
Send stuff
you
over
lose.
It's
to
fucking sheep
Argentina.
farmers, yeah.
Yeah.
So I
It's
think-
also the logistics of it. Like
The
you're in,
revolutionaries were only farmers too.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, you know what we did? Not dick, because they figured it out. But
Because it wasn't
You
our
have-
problem.
you have other shit, like fucking the movie Tears of the Sun is based off fucking real shit.
So I guess kind of towards the beginning, reframing so I am very pro economically going out into the world, right? So the world has things that we need. We have things that the world needs. Completely fine. Military, the federal government was established to defend the borders of the United States itself. And if there's an interest economically to the United States government where it would impact us on a much larger scale financially, then like, yeah, we can send help, but to protect the economic interest. Because some countries that are communism or socialist or monarchies or various forms of different republics or democracies,
An
they'll never
oligarchy.
change their ideals because those are rooted for centuries as they've fought variety of civil wars between the different political establishments and hierarchy of classes, right? The poor man always fights the rich man's war.
Sure. So if we're talking about economics, let's talk about how much our military plays into the security of our economic routes. How many of our bases and how many of our relationships and our military infrastructure protects our trade routes? Why do you think it is that
what is it? The Straits of America? No, it's not it. What's the one in fucking Egypt?
Oh,
you
the
talking
Suez Canal?
Suez Canal,
Oh,
The Panama Canal.
Panama?
Oh,
The
yeah.
Panama's down south.
Oh yeah, but I'm talking about the Suez Canal, the
Suez-
Panama Canal. Like those are huge,
oh yeah.
huge.
Guess what Israel does in that area? It gives them an ability to protect that canal right there. The whole point of Israel and existing right there is that we have active military. But the trade that we have is protected by the power of the military that's in place. If you fuck with the trade and you fuck with our shipping and our trade environment, you are about to get the schlong.
But
So
it-
You're
I
going to
would-
get the American
yeah.
schlong.
but within international waters is where it gets rocky because we don't necessarily
we
have
have-
jurisdiction.
Yeah,
We have friends.
bullshit will fuck you up.
International
So-
waters is a whole set of different rules. If you get attacked in international waters, all we got to know is what's the closest country to that area that has jurisdiction.
So I would say it's also too important to keep this into perspective that defending a canal, which is an economic trade route center for us and the rest of the world, guarding that is different than going to a country and trying to instill a democratic
Yes.
government.
That is a completely different argument. Thank you.
I'll say that, yes, that is a different argument, but it's still not staying in our own corner.
It
Well,
is though.
But it talks to Tim's point where it's the military getting involved to protect a large economic interest to the country. It's not us trying to instill anything with any specific country.
So
We're
you're
merely
saying
guarding a checkpoint.
we should only be involved if we stand to gain from it.
Yes,
No, I'm not
Yes.
saying that.
I am.
Oh yeah, I am 100%.
So there are
So
certain, like I said,
fuck
there-
human lives, fuck everything else. Just
There is a difference between the geopolitical fucking argument that we are making and being a good fucking neighbor. Yeah, I'm gonna help my neighbor if their house is burning, me as a person, real life. But in the geopolitical sphere, okay, it's not my job to do that for a whole nother fucking country when we're talking about billions of dollars, millions of lives. Not my
In
job.
wars that
Well-
they've been fighting for centuries.
okay.
This is where I'll diverge from my
You're
co-patriots
saying
here.
what I did was pointless. If you're saying.
No,
Nick, I'm sorry. I'm not saying what you did
Well,
is
I know,
pointless.
just give me
Initially,
You know
though,
we appreciate you.
yeah, I know. Just give me
yeah,
shit.
we,
the Middle
we
East was
appreciate
for oil.
That's my little dagger I tried to
You're
twist.
like, all right, I have it. This is it.
you know, that's the thing though. I mean, naturally being a part of the military, when you're the arm of the government, you're gonna be asked to do things that the rest of the population may not agree with.
Right.
But
We
I've
support
been
what you do.
struggling with the entire whole thing of I spent 7 months of my life trying not to get my ass blown off. And then I watch on television as it all equates to nothing in a sense. And I have to come to grips with that. I lost a
Nick,
sergeant.
I don't
lost-
want you to be afraid for
Yeah.
your life. I don't want you to be out in fucking buttfuck Egypt. Wow, I really shouldn't have said that. That was a bad acronym for that.
BFE.
don't
No, we
want
all know
you-
BFE.
I don't want you to be in Afghanistan worried about your life. You know where I want you to be? Fucking Oregon.
But I
On
wouldn't have
a-
traded
on a-
that experience for the world.
Well,
You wanna
then,
know that?
congratulations. I'm glad that you actually enjoyed that and that you
So
were happy to
what
be
if you
deployed.
stay at home? All your soldiers.
I was
are
gonna say Raj
and
and,
the
I have the
world goes
most
to
to
shit.
lose out of this.
Huh?
Raj and I have the most to lose out of isolationism.
No,
Well, yeah.
I wouldn't be here.
Isolationism doesn't fully negate
It doesn't.
immigration.
That's what I'm
No.
trying to say. Is like it doesn't cut us off from the rest of the world.
Yeah, but it's a
No, but-
stepping stone. It's a
But
stepping
maybe
stone for
maybe he would have never gotten a chance to see.
America was isolationist when they passed the rule that said the Chinese were there okay to come work, but then they had to go back after because they didn't want.
I'm not arguing that the U.S. hasn't done some sketchy.
What
stuff
do
in
they do with the
past.
Irish?
Irish need not apply.
Do you understand what I'm saying? It's a slippery slope. Isolationism starts with simple, oh, we worry about ourselves, everybody worry about each other.
I feel
Turns
like
into
we're
nationalism and
well. Hold on though.
xenophobic tendencies.
Hold on.
Which is a made-up word.
Hold on. Nationalism
What?
isn't always a negative. The
No,
word can
I'm
be
all
used in
for
a positive.
nationalism. I am a nationalist, in a sense. I'm for
But-
God and country.
But every time it's been used, somebody's gotten hurt.
Well, just because somebody reappropriates a word and does something bad doesn't make it a
Mhm.
bad word.
I mean, I understand that. The swastika is an Indian word
Mhm.
for truth and justice that got turned into the symbol of hate
Yeah.
for
Wait, what?
all time. The
yeah,
swastika.
you didn't know that the swastika was Indian?
It was
So
also
I
It's
knew that it was
Hindu.
I knew that it was from a different culture. I just forgot.
It's from
which one.
Hinduism. It's
Yeah.
called the swastika.
Yeah, because I remember it actually was vertical, and then the Nazis turned it on the angle.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was one at my wedding, and people people are gonna ask why there was a swastika at my wedding.
you're really showing that nationalist pride there, right?
Yeah.
They're like, hey Raj, I don't want
Don't
to be
mean to
rude.
alarm you.
Ein sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
No.
No.
Yeah, it was just changed and misappropriated.
Pretty
Look
much.
at prosperity.
Hindu
Yeah.
syllable. Yeah.
Sanskrit. This
Yeah,
is in every
right.
religious ceremony that we do. This takes.
In the oldest language.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And they got appropriated into hate. And every single time people see this, if they don't know anything about Hinduism, they're just gonna think it's the Nazi swastika.
This
That's
is
the way it's
true.
going to be.
So I mean, so back to the isolationism argument. I guess I'll be honest, I don't have too many more points that I can make. I've kind of run dry on my well of like isolationism.
So
But
have we
but-
swayed you in the slightest?
No, so I've kind of held the stance from the beginning that there are certain things that I would gladly get involved in if I found a benefit to it, whether it's economic, whether it's a benefit of just a moral argument of are there certain things that we should get involved in? Yeah, I mean, like so to be honest, like World War II is kind of a bad example because we were isolationists until we got attacked and then we joined in.
We
but-
provoked that attack. I will 100%
Well,
agree
yeah.
that
How the fuck
that
did
was
we
fucking-
provoke that?
it was
stopped
staged-
giving them
stopped-
it
oil.
was staged. It was staged as fuck.
No, it
You-
wasn't.
Pearl
You
Harbor
stopped
was
the
staged.
oil. You stop the oil to a country that's an expansionist country. You know what's
But we
coming.
could have stopped Pearl Harbor. We
Mm,
didn't.
No, see,
So
That's interesting to expound on. You should have brought that up in the conspiracy theories episode.
I wasn't there that day.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that the answer is yes. We knew that something was going to happen, but we didn't know how bad it was going to be.
Oh, absolutely.
The Japanese Navy left under the cover of darkness. Like nobody.
Oh, they
fucking-
did things textbook. It was
Yes.
textbook beautiful.
And then they
it was
sent
the perfect
it right
setup.
before the attack occurred. The official
And it
declaration
was-
of war.
The only reason it wasn't worse is because
Some
of
of the other
fucking
ships were
sheer
on-
dumb luck
Yeah, some of the
of
other
fucking
ships
a
are away.
training mission.
I
But
think
random,
there was fog
but
too or
random
something too.
sheer dumb luck that they
So-
weren't in the fucking
That-
harbor.
No, shut up, dude. That
No.
was dumb luck.
So back to kind of the point I was trying to make.
Ugh,
For
God.
me, it's one of those things that isolationism can take a facet on different parts of society, like I said, military, economic, geopolitical, trade.
Mhm.
But to me, it boils down back to I would love to help everybody and their mother in the world, but I can't justify continuing to sacrifice all of the money that we dump into it, all of the American lives that we lose going into it, when we have so many issues and people in this country that are like, why can't you fix my life and my problems before you fix theirs?
Okay.
Yeah.
So then if you want to go on that point, how do we fix things here?
I'm accepting unlimited donations from the globalists.
The Patreon.
I can link you my PayPal.
Okay, I mean, all right.
Okay,
So
so how do you fix things here? So if we're not going to focus on anything else, how do you reappropriate those things to fix things here?
less
You're gonna
government
throw-
regulation,
You're going to
Here's
throw
a-
money at things here?
Well, here's the
lower
thing.
taxes.
I will say that that's a little bit of a straw man argument because I'm not professing to have all of the answers to fix here, but there's
We
a
need-
valid argument when people here are saying like we've got our own problems. Yes, it's separate funds sometimes with these budgets, but you need to be focused on your efforts here before you're focused on your efforts out there.
People
Timmy,
need to be
if we
proud.
lower taxes and I still don't have boots, I'm going to take it out of your pocket.
People need to be proud.
Oh,
to be
your birthday's in
Americans.
November. I'll buy you boots.
That's the biggest issue. They need to be proud to be Americans again. I'm not saying I know exactly how to do that, but that is one of the biggest things I think is our issue. Is this country is so divided, and I think that it's kind of like a trickle down effect. There's always going to be division, right? But if you can get people to be proud to be Americans again, you're going to have a wider base of unity.
I don't
I
think
think
you need
they're-
money to do that, though. I think
No.
that's you
No,
need
but
dialogue.
you need to stop fucking around and do another political bullshit.
We
in
need
the
another
world.
good fucking war is what we need.
No, well, I mean, he's not
Huh?
wrong. America has never been as unified as it was after 9/11.
So
Or
that's not
after
that's not
December
true.
7th, 1941.
Like, so America was extremely unified after 9/11. It was very short-lived. It was not like the unification that we saw in some of the other previous conflicts, like after World War II. To be fair, not really an apt comparison. That was a different generation that had a lot of different views and beliefs and a
Mhm.
way of life. But I mean, yes, a conflict, not a conflict, but yes, an event like that will strike an instant sense of camaraderie, but in like a patriotism, but it's a momentary catalyst.
I think a lot of this has to do with how we can't have conversations anymore without being either on one side or the other. Like on our
Getting
first
hurt.
episode, on the first episode, me and Mike talked about this. It's just the whole point of what we're doing here is notice how we kind of get at each other's throats sometimes, but then we back away and we talk about it. This is not like this is how conversations are supposed to be. We can get animated, we can get argumentative about certain things, but we have to be willing to understand
Alcohol
each other's
helps.
points. Alcohol definitely helps. I'm
Well,
2 seltzers in, and I'm doing just
The
fine.
thing is, the four of us literally,
four whiskey lemonades and a beer.
Well, and to tag on to what Raj is saying, we can have these conversations, and we already know we're not going to take it personally because everybody's entitled to a different viewpoint, and it's
Mhm.
good to explore these viewpoints. The four of us will probably hop on Discord and end up playing video games later. We're
Yeah.
still going to be friends.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not going to change
but at the end of the
anything.
day, there's still points that I side with Timmy and Spicy and Mike on, where
Yeah.
it's, we shouldn't spend all this fucking ridiculous money.
Right.
And
on
that's a
stupid
middle
shit.
ground that we can come together on. We can say, yeah, that's definitely right. If we were to delete that, can you also compromise on this?
Right.
Well,
So
and
we
I've,
just find
I've
compromises back and forth.
well, and on my end of basically saying I was taking the isolationist side, but also I have some of those gives on my own where I'm a little more like leaning middle ground on it, because I would agree with you that if there are certain populations that are vulnerable and somebody comes in like a dictatorial leader in a country and just starts a mass genocide of a population, there may be a point where we would have to step in. We have a moral duty to do so. I'm not saying that we would in every conflict, but I mean, World War II, 6 million Jews get exterminated. Like, when is there a duty to intervene?
Yeah, and I mean it's still happening now. You look at the Uyghurs in China,
Oh, that's
forced
horrible.
sterilization and
Wait, the
murders
what?
that are the Uyghurs.
Uyghur
the
Muslims.
Muslim-
Years.
The Uyghurs, they're
Yeah,
the Muslim
Muslims.
minority in
The
China.
Tibetans
Really?
also have been
Yes.
getting almost exterminated. A lot of the Tibetan Buddhists and other things and monks have been
There's a mass genocide
forced
in
into slavery.
Burma.
Yeah,
There's a mass genocide in Burma right now where the Buddhists, which are the minority, are now attacking the Muslim minority,
Really?
and there's mass rape, mass genocide. The military and the police are going into villages just executing people left and right.
Jeez.
They're
Christians have been
escaping. They're escaping into
persecute for years.
Bangladesh, which is another horrible country. So you just like, how bad does it have to be that you have to escape from Burma to then Bangladesh? Yeah, which is a
Laos
country.
always fucking terrible.
Well, and the big hot button one that's coming up is the growing tensions with Taiwan and China.
Yes, so that's
Yeah,
actually what I
fucking
wanted
Nancy
to.
Pelosi's dumb
We're coming up
shit.
on 2 hours, so I wanted to that's kind of what I wanted to end things on as the main final question of something that's going to be happening in the future that is almost a certainty that's either going to end up being resolved with the US being involved in it or not. So China invades Taiwan. Does the US intervene? That's my question to all of you guys here, and I want to get your guys' opinion before I say my own.
I mean, I already know what you're gonna say, but I still hold no.
No? Okay. So knowing what my opinions are and the things that I brought forward, why do you believe that we should not intervene?
If the U.S. intervenes, it just opens up the doorway for a conflict with China. It gives them a reason to take 2 steps through the doorway and be like, "Fuck you, we're going at it." And I don't want that war right now.
We'll
honestly,
fucking win.
I still don't want that war right now. I just don't.
I don't think we would win a war with China, honestly.
Oh yeah, we would win. I just don't
We
want to
would.
fight it.
Yeah, we would
hands
It would
absolutely.
be.
down.
I think, Tim. I think what you're thinking of is it would be ugly, and I agree. But I think we would win in the end.
The technological aspects, I mean, we buy the majority of our technology products from China and
No, we
the
don't.
South Pacific.
Not
areas.
China.
We
Tai-
destroy the
Taiwan.
fuck out of them.
We would find a way to make our own too.
Yeah, actually, that's the issue with the Taiwan thing, with China invading Taiwan, because
Yeah.
a majority of our silicone chips and everything like that come over from overseas
It's
come
all
from
from
Taiwan.
Taiwan.
Yeah, because the United States does not hold the capacity to mine those specific minerals. Because
It's not
we
mining them.
Only,
It's
only
making
because we
them.
won't
No.
ethically
It's making
do it.
them.
It's only because we won't ethically do it.
Yeah, we would bend policy to make it work, dude.
Well,
So
also, I
we
don't know
just-
if
Because
we
the
have
current,
silicone
the current, the
deposits.
current, what is it? Ecological ethics behind mining those chips and everything won't allow for us to do it. If we dispensed with those, we'd be fine.
So yeah, so Taiwan makes the microchips, the stuff that goes inside of
Yeah.
our ballistic missiles that allows us to shoot targets from other countries from our homeland. Taiwan is the reason that we can have those, and we have the ability to make smaller weapons that'll go further, do more damage, and do the things that we need to without risking American lives. So if Taiwan falls into the hands of the Chinese, they have sole rights and property over all the new microchips that are going to be developed, and all the new advanced weaponry that's going to go into place. China will have power over. Now, for you to think that China will win a war against the United States will not happen, because India, Japan, and Australia are also very, very
Itching.
interested. They're itching for a fight.
Well,
India wants to just bust through the front door of China. after they
Australia's
win.
wanted that since fucking
So-
1930.
China has been coming in the middle of the night and moving the fence on Indian territory for the past like 20 years.
but part of the issue with China in their military is that they have invested heavily in technological advancements for weaponry, like their
without the will to fight.
Yeah, they'd have no will
So-
to fight.
Just look
But
at
hold
the
on.
fucking Korean. Look at the
Will-
Chosen Reservoir.
will
Look
to
at the Chosen
fight
Reservoir.
means nothing with nuclear weapons. China created a low Earth suborbital nuclear weapon that they can launch into low Earth orbit that can be deployed at any time in any position.
And you
on
don't
the
think we
Earth.
have a
I am a
countermeasure?
firm.
We have the
That
Iron
You don't think we have a
surprised us.
countermeasure?
That surprised the Department of Defense because they did not think that China held the capacities to create that weapon.
On paper,
I'm
there's
a
some fucking dude
firm-
in a think tank that already fucking figured that out and already had a plan.
I
And
am
then
a
they
firm
went, "Hey,
believer
dude, cool."
that people that even no matter how bad you think countries are, that after what we saw in Japan, that a country would actually not utilize nuclear armaments if they were sane of mind.
the
I
only,
really
they're
am
the
a
only
not.
believer
way
of that.
China's
Yeah,
not, China's not,
We'd have to
They're
push
not
them
not
to
North
the
Korea.
absolute brink.
China is not North Korea. China is not going to deploy a nuclear armament unless another nuclear force is used on top of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them though, with committing their own genocides within their country, locking up their citizens
Yeah, but
during COVID. under
committing genocide
forced
is
areas.
different from world
Yeah.
annihilation.
See,
Because
I
once
side
that
with-
nuclear weapon is launched, the world ends.
Yep.
That's it. There's no redo. The world
Or-
ends.
Or they don't understand the level in which we protected our country, and we end their entire existence.
Yeah.
You know, Israel's defense
I
force,
don't
the
know.
Iron Curtain that stops nuclear weapons from coming in, is created by the United States for anti-nuclear missiles from coming into our
It literally
airspace.
all stems from the Star Wars project,
Yep.
which
Yeah.
came out in the fucking 60s.
But even only that is so accurate.
Listen,
No, I'm
because
talking about it
missiles still get
stems from it.
through.
I'm saying there's more shit that has come after the Star Wars project. Why do
All
you
I'm
think we
saying-
haven't
Oh,
gone
yeah.
back to the moon? It's because we fucking just dumped our aerospace budget into this fucking shit.
So all I'm saying is Star Wars project. I don't get a real lightsaber. It wasn't worth it.
A
Agree.
guy's
We
built
can all
one, you're
agree.
okay.
We can all
Also-
agree on that.
Also, I would like a blue one.
So we go back to invasion of Taiwan. I think the United States carries on an air campaign with light special forces operators in engagement, or I guess asset assistance with, you know, Preds, F-35s, F-22s, because nobody can fucking even track those fucks.
Yeah,
And they'll be in and out, drop a bomb, good to go, bye.
they
They'll
so
ship, they'll be
they
gone.
estimated that the amount of force it would take for them to take over Taiwan is a force of 300,000 Chinese soldiers. To do that, they would take several weeks with the current Chinese capabilities. So the benefit that the US has is that it has India and Australia ready to choke off the lifeline of China, because China still relies on the Indian Ocean to get most of its oil. So if India and Australia choke off that way for them to get oil, China will slowly just die.
And even if
Nothing we
Russia
can
makes
do.
a pact with China, they're on two fronts now. And we've seen that our enemies being on two fronts cannot sustain.
Mm-mm.
So here, I got this map. Boom. Can you see my mouse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So US, we got our base in the Philippines, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just
American
fucking,
Taipei.
yeah. You fucking build up here. You build up in South Korea.
But
then
they
all-
already have.
Yep.
Trust
and
me,
then-
they already have. I have friends deploying to both of those spots.
And then you just absolutely go to fucking town, bro. Full assault into Tianjin for Beijing. Full assault into Shanghai. Full assault into, I don't remember how to.
You could have
exactly say that.
B2s from Seoul to Beijing in like an hour.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
And undetected, unsuspected, fucking either
'Cause
flying
all of
low
this-
or just their stealth alone.
all of this right here in China is just nothing. It's just fields.
Yeah.
This
So-
is where everything is in China.
So where
So-
Nepal is, China has forces there, but guess what is also there? Mount Everest. And they're not getting over that.
No.
Nope.
They're not getting over it. So they
And
can't
we're
do
not-
anything.
they're-
I feel
not
they
gonna
would just
fall
go
back.
around it.
Where are they going to go through? Pakistan?
I mean, if you have Mount Everest instead of going over it, I would just fly around it.
Well, you could try to fly around it, but then that's also where India is heavily guarded against Pakistan.
So I'm not gonna lie. I've come to a startling conclusion from looking at this map. It's that I need to look at maps more often because those countries are not where I remember them being.
He's like, Mongolia. Is that Genghis Khan's country? Like, no.
Wait, what era is this map from?
Like, what year is this?
It's gotta
So-
be recent. It's got South Korea.
2018, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So China has to go through the South China Sea to the Bay of Bengal through the Indian
Yeah.
Ocean to get their oil from the Middle East.
I mean,
So
I'll see,
that all area is barricaded within like 48 hours.
I'll see y'all
the war
later. I need
kicks
to
off.
study
Yeah,
geography.
look at the fucking mountains, dude. Fuck off.
Yeah.
No one's fighting in here.
No.
Or they
No.
that's where they retreat and they can stay there then.
Yeah.
We will take over all of this. We'll take that. You can live in your fucking mountains forever.
Like North Korea will has a treaty with them, but North Korea and South Korea have such a good relationship right now that they won't even bother trying to do anything.
Peter had drained the old sea monster.
The so
That's
That
my
was-
reference.
weird. So sidebar. On a scale of 1 to 10, would you guys take a
10.
vacation to China?
No,
No.
absolutely not.
I'm not Bert. That fucking idiot.
I would.
I know.
I'm at a 3 on that. Just because I
Bird
wanna
in the middle of
experience the
host-
food.
Okay, so time out. I want to talk about another thing real quick before that. Do you want to talk about the exchange that's about to happen between the U.S. and Russia
with the
over the
player.
NBA star and then the Americans espionage?
Spy.
Yeah.
She should have been left there.
Yeah,
fuck her.
I think so. If you're stupid enough to be in Russia and you're
Yeah.
smoking weed, knowing full well that they will fucking use you as a
Yeah.
bargaining chip,
Yeah, you broke their
you are
laws.
disavowed
like,
as a
sorry.
you're disavowed as a U.S. citizen.
Yeah,
So,
spend
like-
the rest of your life in a gulag. Fucking
Yeah.
suck it up.
You're
So I think-
stupid.
Everybody might agree then, right? So we're releasing her from jail for committing a crime in another country with marijuana. Then should we release non-violent offenders who have used marijuana within U.S. prison system?
I think we're getting on a different topic.
Yeah,
That-
I don't want to talk
No,
about
that's
that.
a
too.
different
that would be
issue
like for another
altogether.
day.
Yeah,
but
that's another
I
day.
mean, it's something to think about.
Fair.
I will think about that.
I'll chalk it up onto our ideas.
I have to
Ideas
deal with
list.
that at work.
But I just want to say, gentlemen, I've thoroughly enjoyed this debate. I think we
Yes.
had a very
Yeah, I just want to
productive-
say I still love you all.
Yes.
No, most of you.
Namaste.
I think I actually like this a lot because I
Yeah.
feel like I actually learned something.
Yeah.
No, I did too. Yeah.
No.
Listen, with the namaste, you told us you're from the warrior class. I don't want to hear it.
Hey, I'm namaste right here, bro.
Oh,
wait.
So,
What's the Kali? Are you a fucking worshiper
No.
of Kali over there?
no, the Kali
So-
is like the
The
basically-
death god.
Yeah, she's the death god. Well, technically, she's like the mother figure for all warriors. So warriors before they go into battle would pray to her because she would take your souls and take them to the afterlife.
just real
That's
quick.
basically the only thing.
This is like far sidebar, but everybody just look up 1970s helicopter from India.
Oh God, why?
I could just screen share it. You could have just told me to do it.
Yeah. Are you the only one that can screen share?
No.
I have
No.
to give you guys access, I think.
I mean, I have a green button that says it.
Yeah,
I want to know why.
What the hell is that? No.
No,
No.
come on, dude. Don't even show that. That's just insulting.
You gotta
I'm
share this
showing
screen,
it.
So, for our viewers that can't see this, our listeners, I should say, this helicopter is like your old, like rickety style helicopter that is painted paper mache style to look like an elephant
Yeah,
with basically just a body-sized henna art.
yeah. I don't know why that is. I disavowed that as an Indian. I don't believe that.
That's
Thank
Actually
God they
exists.
changed their ways.
Yeah, no.
That
At least now they're
helicopter-
using Apaches.
Look at the
Yeah.
short bus version of this rescue helicopter.
What does it say? U.S. Air Force.
Danger
Danger
exhaust.
exhaust.
So that elephant helicopter had to require special training for the pilots because if they went too fast, the legs in the trunk would actually go up into the rotor, causing the helicopter to crash.
Did
Oh,
you just read
God.
an article about this real fast?
Yeah, because it was like on a
So-
this day in history. thing.
Wait, hold on. Scroll up. What's that one that looks like a fish?
Oh, that was also in India.
What's
There were
that
like
one?
two elephants.
Are we
and a
talking
fish.
about helicopters now?
Yes.
Is that a carp?
Indian Navy helicopter. Yeah.
Sounds
It must
right.
have been for some kind of like parade or something.
Yeah,
It
it's,
had to
I think they were parading it for I don't like.
Dude,
the
have you
political
seen?
structure there.
India
but-
has
Helicopter.
the
No,
wheat
nobody
that
should
they do the
ever
march.
fly in a helicopter. There's no reason
Why?
to ever fly in a helicopter
Why?
other than emergencies.
I don't know, man.
I've been in so many helicopters. There's no fucking reason. They crash. They're terrible.
So I'm just I'm
What
just
is that
convinced.
helicopter with a bedroom and a bathroom?
So
I want
just-
it.
I'm just convinced that paper mache elephant style helicopter is
Look
someone
at it
just
flying,
really-
Mike. Look at
it's
that
somebody-
picture. Look at it flying. It just looks so
it's
dirty.
somebody just really wanting to bring back war elephants.
I just
But
want to say helicopters have no business being flown.
helicopters have no business being flown looking like elephants.
No. So I was once on a
That's
helicopter,
the swag,
and I'm
bro.
pretty sure it was a CH-53 Stallion. And I'm
Oh.
sitting there in my seat, and I'm like, doop, 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 doop. And then there's just fucking liquid just pouring down my back, and I fucking felt it. I looked at it, it's fucking hydraulic fluid. So then I call the fucking crew chief over, and I'm like, hey, chief, is this supposed to be doing this? And he's like, yeah, tell me if it stops. because then we're in trouble.
Yeah, it lubricates your back so they can remove you from the seat in case we
No.
crash.
It's designed to leak so it knows that the fluid is still going through it.
Oh, that's good.
There's a certain like amount of pressure release in which they put too much hydraulic fluid, and so some of it is relieved.
So I think that was just your helicopter. I don't think normal helicopters.
No,
do
that is all fucking. I'm not the only one that's had fucking hydraulic fluid all over their fucking gear. All of my friends at one point have had their fucking gear drenched in hydraulic fluid.
Thank you,
So
Tim.
you're telling me your
That's
bukkake
terrible
thing
thing.
started in a
Yeah,
helicopter?
yeah. No, I'm just like, stop. No. Oh God.
Helicopter daddy, no, stop it.
Stop. Stop
All right, this is
busting
good.
all
All
over
right.
me.
We're done.
Final thoughts. Final thoughts. It's time.
All
Final
right.
thoughts is that Raj and I have the most to lose in this situation. We still both agree on
Interventionalism.
interventionalism.
Final thoughts is we've had multiple drinks between each other, and our points have still been valid and on point with each other. So we've been very coherent.
Yep.
We have been very much in sync. So
You've been keeping it
yeah,
on lock.
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
6 drinks deep.
Oh
Tim,
God.
final thoughts.
I think it was a good conversation. Of course, all of us have our own opinions, and we're able to share them and argue them and defend whether or not. I think collectively, from what I was hearing, there's a mix of both. Like in a way, you almost have to have a little bit of both. You can't have one without the other.
Have you been swayed more one way than the other? Because I know I'm been swayed to be more economically isolationist.
I guess not particularly, because I feel like I do fall heavily more towards the I guess war part as an isolationist, but economically as there are just things that we need that we don't or couldn't produce here that are produced elsewhere.
Right.
Not saying that we couldn't produce those if we were somehow able to gain the material and the workforce willing to produce those items. Sorry, that's definitely an in-depth topic, and there's so much more that goes into it rather than just economics and war.
This is all meant to be just a deep dive into something. Like I said, none of us are equipped to fully understand this. We have our
Right.
own opinions and thoughts on this. We just wanted to kind of put our own ideas out front and kind of look at the past, the present, and the future of things that are possibly and most likely going to happen, and just kind of put our 2 cents in. So, we're a bunch of drunk idiots. We're just having some fun, having conversations about it, yelling at each other, namasteing each other when we
No, I was just curious to see if anyone got swayed one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a huge possibility. Those of you listening, you might have started off on one side and listened to some of our thoughts and said, hey, maybe I'm more in the middle. And, if you feel like we've given you good points, do your own research, go outside. I'm sure some of the stuff that we said was outside.
Touch grass. Touch grass, you fucking nerd.
Why are you listening to this?
But the best ways to help others is to make sure your house is in order first.
Sure, but just make sure your neighborhood's not on fire like you were in Australia, okay?
Spicy. Final thoughts.
So, like I said, I kind of, I'm still leaning more on the isolationist side, but not entirely, and not in every realm. I think there's something to be said for a possibility of maybe America needs to return to a period of isolationism so that we can be better equipped to intervene. Maybe it's not a permanent thing. Maybe it's a temporary thing to fix some of the issues that we have and to build up to better intervene in the world and to instill some of those things like Raj and Nick pointed out. But in general, I'm still isolationist in a way. I think there's still moral obligation sometimes to intervene, almost a duty to intervene. Maybe that's me projecting my own personality coming from a law enforcement fire background. But yeah, so again, with what Tim said, mixture, but maybe we need to consider a period of isolationism to better serve the world.
Nick, final thoughts.
I kind of already gave mine. I hope I guess I gave another dynamic in the sense of having been somebody who went out and, spread the will of the United States to
Being an
other countries.
interventionalist.
Spread the
Yes.
will.
Spread the will.
Brought
For
the
those
force
just tuning
to
in,
all
he is not a
those-
missionary.
no,
But he likes it in missionary.
all of my American missionary trips were handled by the United States government and 556. So
He just spread freedom bullets all over a foreign land just to hopefully sprout some freedom.
lead injections. I just wanted to give treatment by lead injection. So I just hope I kind of gave my perspective in a way in which was palatable, as well as got my feelings and point across at the same time. I'm very open to different thought processes and things that I only know what I know, and so seeing it from people like Raj, who's an immigrant, and things like Tim, who's a good old boy from local, and Spicy, who's kind of world traveled. It's kind of, but not with a firearm. It's kind of
Firearms in my heart.
been correct. It's kind of enlightened me in some senses of, a lot of differences that I haven't seen, because I've dealt with a lot of my type people for a long time.
Right. I'm just going to say that I feel like I learned quite a bit. You guys definitely, gave me a lot to think about, although I still am stuck kind of in the isolationist military aspect. I think your main arguments really actually held a lot of ground. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. So thank you, Tim. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Spicy. As always, Raj, you don't get a thank you because you're mandatory, just like me.
Makes sense.
Other than that, thank you to all of our listeners. And this will officially be our third podcast. And we will start releasing podcasts weekly, Sunday afternoons after this. So keep your...
I'd also like to thank Manscaped for their future sponsorship of this.
keep your ears and
Crown
ears to the
Royal
ground.
whiskey. Come on now.
We're gonna get
Sponsorship.
charged for that somehow. But keep your ears to the ground for that every Sunday afternoon. I'm gonna try my best to get the newest episode out. And
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, thank you for
appreciate
listening.
you.
As always, stay ordinary. Have a good one.